Okay, now in this example, we have a situation where we could probably print what you see on the screen all on one page, but it probably would have to be made very small, shrunk down to kind of fit, on that one page, even if we put it in landscape. But before we get to that, let's talk about this in general. Let's say that you had a worksheet like this where you had basically two distinctly different sets of numbers. You could just plan on just printing this on two separate sheets of paper. This would be page 1, this would be page 2. Okay, now one way of doing that would be this. We could actually select this range here, right? Hold down the control key and select the other range, and that will get that all the way over the side there. So that's our two ranges, right? Now, if you remember from the last video, I was telling you that if you were to select multiple ranges and go ahead and print that, you'll end up getting that many pages. So if you were to select two ranges here, you're going to get 2 pages, all right? And so we're going to try that. So we'll do this first, right? Then we'll go back into File, then we'll go to Print, all right? And if you look at the number of pages we have, it says we have 3 pages because there's page 1, there's page 2, and there's page 3. So not very good, all right? Now we could maybe try changing the margins and see what that does. So let's go ahead over into the margin area here, and we can maybe change that to narrow. And that looks like it did the trick. We're just lucky, I guess, huh? So there's page 1, and then there's page 2. That's the second one, all right? Now, what we might want to do in this case is at least get it to be centered, maybe even get, the grid lines to show up in there. So do you remember how we did that? Well, we went down to the page setup, right? We go into the margins area, and we tell it horizontal. That way it gets centered between the left and right margin. And then we go over to Sheet and turn on the grid lines, right? Hit OK. There we go. So there's page 1. Oop, there's page 2, I should say. And now there's page 1. Looks pretty good. What happened, and you can see this as well, is on that page, on page 1 here, we're also printing the next column over. So if we go back, and I go back, let's get out of here, go back into here. Well, in essence, we're actually printing this out too. All right, that's getting printed in there as well, even though we've got the 2 sides selected. So that might be kind of a problem. So another thought, another way to pull this off would be to sit there and say, well, we really don't need, other than for visual, we really don't need column H in there, right? So if we just go in there and select column H, just do a right click on it, I should say, and go down there and click on to delete, all right? That'll take care of it, all right? Now, if we go back into File, go back into Print, all right, there's page 1, and then let me scroll down just a little bit. Now, there is page 2, and that worked out perfect. So that's a thought there. All right, so now I'm gonna close this file, and I'm not gonna save it. All right, and then I'll go back and reopen it again. All right, so we're back to square one. I'm going to show you another way of doing this, because probably the first way I showed you might have been a little convoluted, a little confusing. So let's approach it a little bit differently. Let's first start out and say to ourselves, we don't need column H. All right, so we're going to go in there and we're going to delete column H. All right, so just get rid of it. All right. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to acknowledge that this has to go onto 2 pages. And we want to make darn sure that when we go to print it, that this ends up on page 1 and this ends up on page 2. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into a special view. So anytime that you know you're going to be in a situation where you're going to have multiple pages, what you want to do is go into a view that allows you to manage those pages, those page breaks in essence. And the way we can do that is we go into view, right? We go over here to what is called page break preview, all right? And that gives you this, all right? We can kind of zoom in a little bit so we can see a little bit better there. But there it is. So there's page 1, there's page 2, there's page 3. So what do we do? Well, these are page breaks. You probably figured that out. What you do is you point right on the border. You get that little double-tipped arrow. Hold down your mouse, drag it over like that, let go, boom, there's your page break. And by having adjusted that page break, it pushed over the natural page break that was over here. So now we've got 2 distinct pages. That's it. Now, if you want to, you can go back into normal, and that'll be back to our regular view here. Now, let's go ahead and click on a file. Let's click on to print. And there is our page 1. And then I'll click on to page 2 there, and there's our page 2. Perfect. And then at that point, if you want to add a little bit to it, I don't think it needs to be centered, but we can go back into the page setup, and we can still go to margins and hit horizontal anyway. I mean, if it doesn't need it, doesn't do anything. And then for sure, go over to sheet, click on the grid lines, right? Hit OK, and there we go. There's your grid lines. There's page 2, and then we can click on there for page 1, and that's it. Now, if you're thinking that it might look better landscape, all right? Right now it's portrait standing up there, so we'll go over here to the portrait and change that to landscape, and there we go. Now it's centered on the page, but there sure is a heck of a lot of extra room here, so maybe we should make this a little bit bigger, huh? So we can actually go over here to page setup, where it says adjust to. It's at 92%. That was because it was shrunk down when it was in portrait. So we're going to bring that up to, let's say, maybe 100, and we'll make it 110, see what happens. So 110% there. Hit OK, and there we go. Still got quite a bit to go here, so maybe we'll bring it up to 120, and then hit OK. That's good. We don't make it too big. But there it is. I think that's very readable, very easy to see. So hopefully that helps. That's a pretty simple fix there, but still it's good to know the different ways you can do this stuff. All right, so appreciate you watching the video. Take care.